Hej allihopa och varmt välkomna. Varmt välkomna. Erik Bergstrand heter jag, representerar Kulturakademin här idag i Malmö. Vi sitter annars i Göteborg och vårt strategiska råd jobbar för att vi kommer vinnas över hela landet. Och det här är vår första aktivitet vi gör utanför Göteborgs gränser. Och vi är jätteglada att vi får till det här samarbetet. Så ni ser vilka som samarbetspartnerna är med, men vi har också på scenen, så vi lämnar över ordet till Sara.
Ja, jag har en egen. Tack. Hej, Sara Bros heter jag och jag är utbildningsledare för Alma manusutbildning, som är en vidareutbildning inom manus och film och dramaserie. Och vi har våra studerande som sitter här i publiken. Jättekul att få vara här i Skåne och Malmö. Vi har våra träffar på olika håll runt om, både här i Sverige och också i Berlin. Men jag ska inte säga så mycket mer. Otroligt glad över att ha Sibylle Kurz här idag. Och att vi också kan ha lite mingel efteråt. Och vi har också, eller vem ska vi... Ja.
Jag är redan beredd med mikrofonen. Kul att vara här i Malmö, säger jag också. Ganska ofta här ändå. Hanna Solberg från Film i Skåne. Vill också passa på och tipsa er om att det händer massa saker den här veckan. På torsdag. Avslöjad. Så är det till exempel filmbar där det visas massa skånska filmer, men där också Alma kommer finnas med och ha en specialpunkt. Och jag antar också att ni från Alma vill träffa lite mer skåningar också. Sen ska vi också säga att efter detta, när ni har suttit och lyssnat och ställt massor med frågor, så kan ni fortsätta att fråga varandra saker i foajén i 2 hela timmar. Och då kommer ni få kaffe, men också macka. Så det är värt de här timmarna. Så 2 heta tips som ni ju inte vill missa.
Och bara en liten sak till. Jag kan passa på att tipsa också om att på onsdag den 13 så har vi en liten kväll på Filmcentrum Syd med Dražen Kuljanin, regissör, som kommer prata om nollbudgetfilm och kreativa processer 18:30. Och då är ni varmt välkomna. Ni får gärna föranmäla er på info@almamanusutbildning.com. Det är fri entré där också.
Så vi tar varsin här.
Hej, Alexandra Ligeberglund heter jag, är från BG och vi har vår bas i Helsingborg men arbetar för hela Skåne. Och hos oss så har vi lite workshops och föreläsningar och fördjupning och sådär.
Hej, Lars Dahlqvist. Jag är verksamhetsledare för Teatercentrums södra region. Har mitt kontor tvärs över gatan, så jag är kanske inte lika glad för att vara i Malmö idag när det är söndag. Men Teatercentrums skådespelare, regissörer, manusförfattare är nyfikna på den här sortens innehåll naturligtvis, och vi ser fram emot ett fortsatt samarbete med Kulturakademin Trappa naturligtvis. Vi hade ju Kulturkraft Syd för några år sedan som var ett stort, oerhört stort faktiskt, fortbildningsprojekt som gick i graven, och det är saknat av många. Vi ser med förhoppningar fram emot ett nytt liknande stort fortbildningsprojekt. Och därför är vi med på ett hörn här idag då, från Teatercentrums sida. Men välkomna, vi ska väl inte ta mer tid kanske.
And Sibylle, what we all talked about was that we're all so extremely happy that you are here.
This is very
and a warm welcome and an applause for Sibylle. The stage is yours.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sarah, I had to laugh because when you were standing under my photo, there was a kind of similarity, and so I thought I feel obliged now to say I just recently cut my hair because it's summer, because it was the hair back, and I just thought she could do the lecture now actually.
Why not?
Why not?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, a warm welcome. I just learned a hey or a hey hey or a hey hey hey. So I don't know how familiar we are. Hopefully after 2 hours of my lecture we will be closer and more familiar, and you have learned something about pitching, something about me, my attitude to my work. And of course I'm terribly honored also that I have such a wonderful long list of supporters, but this is really nice, and I hope I'll do good for it. Yeah. Good. So a warm welcome, guten Tag from my side, as I say. Today we talk about the art of pitching of your ideas and projects, and I would say, as we have afterwards also some time for questions and answers, if you have some urgent question coming up, popping up, raise your hand, wave it, and I'll try to answer it. This lecture is very, very dense, so a lot of questions and a lot of tools will be answered. But if you really have some issues that you say, I don't get it, please, I'm happy to explain it, because one of the issues is that we are all experts in what we're doing, and sometimes due to the expertise we forget things because we take them for granted. So also I'm running this mistake sometimes, to have too much expertise in talking. Yeah? Good. Pitching. I would like to know from you, basically for this lower question here, who has pitched before, publicly, for money, of course, and liked it? Yeah, that's a good number. Yeah, that's already a good starting point. Yeah? But for the fairness, I have to ask who didn't like it so much, who considers it more to be a must. Okay. It's actually, it's very typical somehow. Yeah, it's not a clear yes, I like it, or I hate it. Yeah, it's not this. The people who don't like it so much, they are rather vague. And the idea of maybe to convince you to enjoy it better in the future is exactly the understanding of the pitch, what we do in the terms of preparation. Yeah, because some tools we are not aware of, and one issue of this lecture is to dig a little bit deeper inside yourself to realize what kind of, let's talk drama, antagonistic powers you keep alive in yourself. Yeah, and sometimes we just have to tell them, you can stop doing this, there's no more need, this is what we did when we were 6 years old, now we're grown up. Sometimes it's simply the recognition, but sometimes it's really getting some tools, and I hope I can cover all of that those who didn't like it say, okay, I'd rather go for I like it now. That's my goal for the day today. So, pitching. First of all, a very simplified definitions. I will give you 3 definitions now in the next minutes. The first one is basically the understanding of talking, sharing information. And this is what I assume you just did when you entered here and you registered and you saw some familiar faces, or you already got in contact with others. You started to say, hey, who are you? What you're doing? Are you a director, a documentary filmmaker? So what is your project about? Aha, interesting. And what did you do? You did a mini pitch in social talk, I would call that. So it is first of all something we share communication, and this is what we normally like. The interesting observation is that the moment we call the talking pitching, people freeze and say all of a sudden there's something connected to it. And to understand what is connected to it and why it is connected, that often makes a difference in our emotional state, how we enter the scene of a pitch. So all those mechanisms, what we are facing, this is what I would like to share with you. When we pitch, it is a rather complex thing about you, but you as a professional, and everything what I'm talking now is considered to be mentioned or meant to be B2B, business to business. There is another abbreviation, business B2C, which is business to consumers. This is what the press is doing when they write articles or advertisement to tease people or the consumer, to tease them into the cinema or to use any kind of media. What we are doing is really B2B, that means business to business, and that of course implies immediately when you talk about yourself, you talk about the person, your CV, your CA, I'm coming to that later, your projects, your ideas, your company. You talk what you've done before, you talk about what you're doing, and you talk about your strategic plans, what you're going to do next, including projects which are maybe in a slate of projects you run in your company, or when you are a single entrepreneur, which you are planning to work on, to write, to research, to develop. And all that is, of course, and this is something we cannot avoid, and that is actually, I would say, the most toughest parameter of those three is the market. To have the understanding of what is the market. And here the first obstacle starts, actually, because when we look at the market, a lot of people think, okay, that's the market, I have to supply. But there is another idea which I fight for, that we are shaping the market. Yeah, right now you are supplying to what the people, the generation of broadcasters, of producers, of artistically working people have supplied to our chain of media distribution. But I see creatively working people always as the ones who are shaping the market, who are shaping the future. And that, of course, needs a lot of courage. Yeah, because right now the people in the position of controlling the market, they are the ones who have the money. And this is what we, with our pitches, want to get, to access. Yeah? So it's totally clear that, of course, money is a ruler, but the intellectual potential and the ethic or moralistic potential you have by creating projects which pinpoint or put fingers on issues, on wounds in our society, this is the creativity and the power you are going, where I see you can go and change the market and change culture, change society. So for me, pitching is also not just communicating data about something, but is really taking care of the future by taking responsibility of your own creativity, which I believe is a huge gift. So that is the presenting yourself as pitch it is considered to have those three layers. Yeah, this is the understanding of how I'm talking about. An additional definition, and that's, let's say, that's a more serious definition, and the attitude of the definition is that I would say when you talk about your projects and you pitch your project, you are exchanging data. You are exchanging data of the knowledge about your projects, about your research, about your cost, your financing, your ideas. This is all what I call data. And you are communicating it to people who are the ones who are in the position giving you money, giving you distribution to make your piece of art or piece of media grow and to be put into the world. So it is basically, it's really a neutral exchange of that. And it's us, it's our introspection, it's our mindset that we are putting some who or hey, a hoo-hoo on it. Yeah. So, and this is the understanding of what kind of attitude do I put on this very down-to-earth exchange of data. And this is, of course, our mindset, it's our heartbeat, it's our soul, and that's why the pitching is not only a communication tool in the sense of I have to focus and brief and bring a brief to my sentences. It is the attitude with how you are conveying it. So what we do, we share visions and missions between creative people, and we are, once we are doing it and once we have prepared it properly, you can get this feeling that you perceive yourself as a truly professional, because then it's really about an exchange between people who are in the market to share goals like making money, making culture, doing important things. So there's a lot of motivations and intentions you have, and that will be one tool we will talk about strongly. But there's, for the preparation, a lot of tools I want to share with you, which will help you for the next preparations for pitching to go with a little bit more ease. Who am I, of course? I'm doing this since, 23, 24 years now. Before and now Lars, that's for you, the explanation, because I mentioned when we were putting the cables down here and Ida nailed them down with gaffer tape, and I said, yeah, good old gaffer. Gaffer is holding the world together. Yeah? And I said I got used to gaffer when I was in the music industry, and Lars said, what do you mean by music industry? So we started already a little chat, but I said, no, I'm gonna explain it anyhow later. So what I was doing after I finished school in '77, I started working. It was a holiday job basically in a company who was touring bands all over Germany, and who was wholesaling records. So it was music with live artists, promoters, and of course records. And in that time, I must say, I've learned a lot about creatively working people. That creatively working people not necessarily are chaotic, but if they're real pros, they're very, very structured. And insofar, my biggest experience when I was really young was working with Frank Zappa when we were touring with him, because he was the wild cat, as you all know, on stage. But backstage, a completely different issue. The most strictest guy in terms of one day off in between. No sex and drugs and rock and roll on the day of the gig. In between, everything was fine. And I remember one day when his drummer was a bit too drugged on the day of the gig, and he immediately got a ticket back to Chicago, and us lucky promoters had to find a new drummer for the gig in Germany, which was but luckily enough, the closest friend of us was Kurt Kress, at the time a drummer at Weather Report, and he had played with and we said, Kurti, can you please come? Okay, yeah. And it was all, I mean, this was in the year 79, so it's quite a while ago. There was no email, no SMS, no just handy or mobile phone. So by then I've learned what it means to be a creatively working person, but being completely structured. And this is an attitude, I must say, it helped me a lot in doing my work now, because on one hand I want to push and I want to help and support people to really letting out the energy, this life essence of creativity. But then in a pitch, and this is the basically a kind of contradictory part, when you're a writer, you are forced to really go into details, to really unfold and to connect me emotionally. And then in a pitch you have to take it back, to focus, to really concentrate, but still be emotional. So it's a lot of discipline you need for that work, and you need a lot of preparation and intensity. But in that sense, I feel I had a good education by being in the music industry before. So that is one of the key parts. And then afterwards our company changed. It was not just a holiday job. It turned out that I stayed there for 18 years. I joined the company, stayed. We transformed the purpose of the company. At a certain moment we stopped the record distribution, we stopped the management, and moved completely into distribution of music on video, which at that time in the early 80s was something which didn't exist. So there was no MTV, there was nothing like that. But we tried, or we dared actually, to put music on these little black boxes. I mean, little at that time, VHS, Beta, U-matic, so all the formats, they are not existing anymore. Sometimes I feel I'm a kind of technical museum and talking from before the war, because maybe some of you haven't been born at that time yet. But it's amazing to see technical development in these past 25 years really flying by, and getting the sense of where it flies to in the near future. But also that time after being for a long time in acquisition and distribution of film rights, and as well as co-financing and co-production later on, my brain needed food, and so I took a sabbatical, and it was a long sabbatical, but I started to go back to university and studied then media and communication science, psychology and sociology. And afterwards I continued by further development or further training as a trainer and a therapist for coaching. And this is what I'm doing now since 1995. And it feels every time again exciting when I see a new group, and it's great because it's a kind of staying in touch with culture, with life, with vitality, because I'm always working with young people, and that's the biggest gift, I must say, I'm getting by over the years now out of it, because staying with young people keeps you young inside yourself. So thank you for being here and for being young. I published about it. It's called Pitch It. Unfortunately only in German and in Czech. So whoever is fluent in Czech, there's a chance. And as we say in Germany, the shoemaker has the biggest holes in his own shoe. I haven't managed yet, because I made a hugely bad deal with my publisher, I haven't managed yet to translate it in English, but now there's a change in publishing houses, so hopefully one day there will be a chance to have it in English too. Okay, now into the subjects. As I said, it's a lot of preparation. And the preparation, I would like to focus on, to put your attention to the pitching context, to the different situations. And then we move into the project content, and then afterwards into you as the person who pitches, because you as a creatively working people, you have many projects in your pipeline and ahead, so it's good to understand the introspective process you're working on. How do we do this? Eric, how do we do this? There can be, because this is a very long one, so it's going to be recorded, you said, right? This is why I'm here in the camera. So it will be put on your canal, right? Yeah. So that's why you don't even need to record it, because the quality of that is even better. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So that's the easiest, because then you can because they are just key points, so the in-betweens are the ones which are more interesting. Yeah. Okay. Good. The top, there are two patterns of it, as I said, structure and passion. And the result of it all will be, and that's insofar a step looking ahead, pitching for me in the sense of being a tool. The most important of it is that it helps to develop your projects. It helps the moment when you talk about it, you get feedback, you reconsider, you grow, you go a step ahead, and insofar you all continuously develop your projects. And that not only in regards to the projects, but also to your networks and for yourself as I said before, to perceive yourself truly as a professional. So talking about your projects is something which always helps to clarify your mindset. The places, the context and the pitching situations. Where do we pitch, or where do you pitch? I just made a general big distinction between the informal and the formal way of pitching, because it has different communication forms. Yeah, so for any kind of informal pitching, it's important that you like to talk, that you have social talk skills, and that means when you do any kind, or what you just did while entering, yeah, so you chat, yeah, so the networking at festivals, get-togethers like here, markets, even talking to the press, it is not that you are just jabbering, or that you're talking something. Yeah, when you talk about your project, you always should be aware that people are interested and listening to what you talk about the project. In particular, when press is there, this is their job to find out what's next. So their ears are big, and insofar it's good to be prepared also in these informal social talk situations to have clear sentences, one-liners about your project, one-liners about your background, one-liners about the mission statement of your company, that you don't have to start thinking and explaining, but that it's simply there. Just to get used to it. The formal pitching means most of the times a public pitch. And the public pitch, like you have here in Malmö, you have the Nordisk Panorama. There's a public pitch. So you are nodding. Did you pitch there? You were nodding when I said Nordisk Panorama here in Malmö. You know about it, yeah. But there's some. It would be great, because I would have picked your brains just to say, okay, so how is it going? Is any one of you has ever pitched there at the Nordic Panorama? You did? And how long is the pitch there? Is it like in Amsterdam, 7 minutes and 8 minutes? Yeah, because that by now is the format. Yeah, so in documentary, we will go into other formats for fiction films or animated projects, or any kind of hybrid projects. But for documentaries, it's this classical 7+8. So that would be something where you have to prepare and know what is the timing. This is when you really have to practice it in the sense of, am I in time? Because a lot of people either totally underestimate or overestimate the space they have. And it's a pity, because if you have 7 minutes, use the 7 minutes. And don't stop after 3, because it feels so awkward, because this is really a chance to share exactly what you have and what you need. So in that sense, the preparation of a formal or an informal is different simply by the formalities. And all these kind of public or semi-public formats, they are everywhere by now. I would say if you're in documentary film, in animation, in any kind of transmedia projects, there's a lot of fora where you publicly present your project. So it's something where you get used to it. In Germany, we know that for feature films, for fiction films, it's not so much public pitching. Only there's something called the debut at Max Ophüls, where young students with their diploma films have the chance to pitch in front of broadcasters, which is also, but it's a kind of talent cast situation from the public broadcasters.
I just wanted to ask, those 7 minutes, is it only you pitching without questions from the financiers?
Yeah.
So the 7 minutes must be practiced, so you have
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. The 7 minutes is particular when you do documentary. You always should embed some visual materials between 2.5, 3 minutes, because I do not know any documentary pitch anymore which works without visual materials. And that's a difference to same for animation, to get a sense of the stylistic approach. But when we talk feature or fiction movies, normally we do not, I'm not a big fan of mood boards, because it often distracts the listener into another world which we do not want to share with them. And once something is set in the brain, it's sitting there and you cannot get it out again. So that's why it's very important for documentaries. So basically in these 7 minutes you might have 2.5 to 3 minutes, and then afterwards there is an 8-minute question and answer session from the people who are attending the panel. Good. One-to-one meetings. I assume mostly everybody has been on festivals where you have been at markets. Is that right? Or so you're familiar with that. But even so, there it needs to be prepared. There's a cute saying from Tucholsky: you should not talk longer than 10 minutes about everything, and the German translation is actually much more funny. You should talk not longer than but not about 10 minutes. But it would be a wrong English. So you can talk about everything, but not about 10 minutes. And in German it's the same, but the meaning here is focused on the tip, because the shorter your presentation is, the longer you need to prepare. This is really a discipline to find, and our language is so rich and so lush, so we have to find the right adjectives, the right words, the wording where you also feel happy and free to communicate it. Here we come to a kind of collection where you really understand that the preparation, depending on what and where you pitch, has different lengths. But what it's in its core, when you do, for example, when you do an informal pitch or you do an introduction, in general, you're walking through the whole chain of short pitches, like the 1 minute, the elevator, so-called what the Americans call the elevator pitch, between a certain floor up to another floor. Can you share what it's really about? It's like what I call, when you're on a festival, like the break fast or the breakfast pitch. You're sitting next to each other in a hotel and you realize people are carrying the same bag of the festival. Okay, so you're here. Who are you? What do you do? What's your project about? And that's basically, it's always the introduction. So you should never be astonished if somebody asks you, so what is your project about? No, one sentence. I'm trying to find out, or this is my quest of that project. It's a series, it's a documentary about. And this should be just a flow with you. And from these kind of tweets, and maybe social talks, like they're by now also formal speed dating pitches, that you shift from that you move from one to another. I just it just came in my mind. There is a website, the Great American Pitch Fest. Maybe you've heard about it. It's a pitch in the States, in Los Angeles, and they were famous that they called themselves the biggest pitching event for screenwriters. Yesterday there was a new announcement. We are proud to be the smallest pitching event now. And I said, what the heck is that? And now they say we only invite 200 writers and 100 decision makers. So everyone has the chance to meet, or every second one has definitely guaranteed one meeting within an afternoon. What? I think this is madness. I'm not a fan of this speed dating pitching, because it's not a show, it is business. And of course you can tease, you can hold the carrot by saying, this is a project about, I want to do it because of, and I need you for that particular reason. But it is to establish a profound and solid professional relationship, it needs more than just speed dating. So I'm still fighting for the, let's say, the good old mainland continental European pitching format of starting from short, moving into longer formats that lead to long-lasting working relationships, and not just like supermarket in and supermarket out. Then any kind of official formats, round about 5 minutes you always find everywhere. When writers are pitching, that's interesting that most of those formats are down to 3 minutes. You might say, so who's a writer here in the room? So you maybe say, why do we have less time than a producer? The reason is that writers often tend not to pitch, but to plot. And plotting is the most no-go in pitching, because there's no chance to say, and then, and then, and then. Because that's the reason why you should pitch, in order to make people read your script. And if you go and then, and then, and then for a feature-length movie, you pitch 90 minutes, and that's not a pitch. So that's why writers, for good reasons, they are the ones who go into detail. And for them it's the toughest to step back and to see what is the essence, what is really the key asset my character has, what is a particular note on that universe with its rules, and then to see, maybe to have a focus on the plot points. And later on we will come to something which the writers might call me then, but then I'm a spoiler. No, you are not. You're going to pitch the ending always. Yeah? And that helps you even to shorten the whole thing. But it is an absolute crucial rule to pitch the ending. Docs, as we just say, doc standard is 7 plus 8 minutes, plus the 8 minutes Q&A. Any kind of cross and transmedia projects, this is where you are forced to understand what is the story building process, the story world or the story universe, which is in the middle of it. And out of that story universe, we explore onto diverse platforms and derivates like games, like ARGs, like mobisodes, like documentary films, like web series. Insofar, it's very, very crucial to understand the focus point of that world and then move on to the platforms. That's the reason why those project pitches publicly are longer. And then you have mostly one-on-one meetings at markets, office meetings, this is what you know. But this is already only possible once you have pitched shortly in order to go to the line of the longer ones. I gave one example here. Producers, are producers here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, 6, 7. I just have to wait a little while. So don't worry, you don't have to get up and pitch. It's nothing. It's just like for me to understand on which focus do I go. There is the biggest European workshop called EAVE, European Audiovisual and Entrepreneurs, and they have 3 workshops over 1 year, and for them it is a constant duty to pitch, not only while they're in the workshop and the training, but also as an introduction. They have to start to share in workshop 1 as well as in workshop 2. They share that changes the project in 2 minutes, and then they make a big jump, because the goal of that workshop is that at the end of the year they will have meetings round about between 20 and 30 over the course of 3 days, where the meetings are up to 45 minutes. So you can see with the same project, so you can see, first of all, the project has been developed. There's a lot of talking about the money, and this is really building up intense relationships with the people they are pitching to. And in between they also have informal ones, so they, during the course of the year, they really learn from 2 to 45 minutes to share data about their projects. Why pitching? If you just imagine a script, and a script I find most of the times very unsexy and very blunt in the description of emotions, of tonality, of atmosphere. What a pitch does, it works like a reading instruction. It works like a manual, because a pitch, and we will go to the working scheme in a minute, a pitch always includes your motivation, the intention, what is the film really about, or the project, which means what is the theme, and the ending. So if I read a script and I understand where is the journey going, that's the only reason why I read a script. Because if I'm a decision maker and I'm not knowing where the journey is going, I'm not willing to read it. Because in a project, only at the end of the second act, when you are at the second culmination, all of a sudden from the character's perspective, the need is coming out. It's not the want anymore with which we start the journey, but it's the need, what the character has to understand after that journey, if we're talking about the very classical 8-sequence model here. And if I am not going along with your idea how you are painting the world towards the end of the film, then I'm not willing to pay, then I'm not willing to support you. Because if you make movies where this is a personal opinion, where it's all of a sudden a glorification of right-wing movements, this is not my cup of tea, so you don't get my money. And that's why it's very crucial to understand and to tell me where's the journey going. And that is, if I have that understanding about the atmosphere, about the direction, about your intention, then I read it and I have already that in mind. And this is not spoiling the process. It is rather nourishing and enhancing it, because then the question is, what is the film really about, or the project, and how are you going to tell that to me? Yeah, and this is what I then, if I'm generally interested in the theme, and then I'm interested in how you are going to tell that, then I'm going to read a script and use my time or spend my time on something where I know it's not lost. So that's why a supporting manual as an instruction helps you or helps me as a reader or as a pitch receiver, helps me to understand you better. And then I'm stepping in the process. Here it's something very crucial. Tell your stories first to yourself. Speak them out loud to hear and feel what's right or wrong. What you can, in right or wrong, I mean what you can speak, what you can express with full will and saying it. Yeah, because when you write, when you're in the writing process, mainly what you're using is your right brain hemisphere. But the right brain hemisphere is not connected to our language center. So we have these two senses which we have to match, meaning when I speak it out, it moves automatically from this felt sense of, I know what it feels right. It moves to the other side of your brain, to the left brain hemisphere, where we have our Broca center, which is the language center. And only by that, using that, shifting from here to here, out here, and then hearing it back again, we can say, okay, that's a sentence I'm ready to say. Yeah? So it would be super if we just could do this, so that it dripples over to the left side. Tried it, doesn't work. You have to really speak it out loud. And maybe you still have this experience from school or university. It doesn't make sense when you learn just for yourself. It's a good preparation. But then once at least you have to share it with your colleagues. You have to speak it out loud to see and feel, did I really get it? Did I understand it? And that's the proof. And then you can fine-tune, then you can adjust. And our body is a wonderful control, because at that very moment when you want to speak something out and you feel it's right, and you start, and all of a sudden you realize you're doing things like, yeah, I'm totally convinced about my project, and this is just great from your body, because your body wants to protect you. Your body doesn't want to embarrass you. Yeah? So your body is with you, taking position, taking a stand. Yeah, that's why we call it like that. Taking position mentally as well as intellectually as well as physically. So once you can stand in a place and share and have eye contact with people, and you know what you're talking, then you're ready to pitch it, to convince people, because that is in the end the job, to convince people to go with you on a journey which is full of risk, full of adventure, full of growth. And once you succeed, it's cool, but sometimes it's on the highway to hell. Sometimes you have to stop even in the middle of the development, but maybe it was too early, or it's the wrong partner, and then you move on, or you put it in the drawer for a certain time. Everything can happen with a project. When did the idea pitch you? That is another crucial tool. How do you get your ideas? You go to, what's it called? Hampshire. You go to Hampshire. They sometimes have offers. Buy 3, pay 2. So how does that work? Normally, when ideas make it to life, it has gone through quite an intense biochemical process in our brain. Because what we do to make decisions, it's basically that our senses, we always use our senses. Yeah, you are in a discussion to make a decision. You either have a very strong auditive sense that you say, oh, that sounds right. It sounds okay. It sounds right or it sounds wrong. If you taste something, it tastes nice or it tastes horrible. If same with the smell, yeah. If you see things which is up in the northwestern hemispheres, we make our decision by it looks nice or it looks ugly. Yeah? And in the end, all the senses, whatever your main used sense is, it is a very simple binary dual decision. We either go for it or we don't. Yeah? And in terms, when this then moves into both directions, you can say, and this is what creatively working people do, when they, let's see, they observe something and they say, this is amazing, the world should know about it, let's make a movie about it. Or they say, so you share the positive news, yeah, which we are lacking a bit, sharing of good news. Yeah. Or you see something what happens in the world where you say, this is horrible, this is disgusting, this is unfair, this is unbearable, the world should know about it. That's the step into a decision. And I only want you to remember, when you have a project, simply remember what was the moment when the idea pitched you that you said, the energies are strong enough to go now on that trip, to go on that journey. Because that is a kind of Pavlov reflex. Whenever you think back to that moment, all your senses, your emotions, your value systems were triggered, they were engaged. Yeah? So all of your motivational energies were there, and they made you to jump and to go for something which is not the easiest to start with, a project, yeah, to get the financing and all that. Yeah? But it's good to remember it also. I mentioned these EAVE pitching, that they have 20 or 30 pitches in 3 days. Just imagine you have the chance to meet these many people. But it's a tiring process to repeat yourself 20, 30 times, 40 minutes each. Yeah? At pitch number 17, at a certain moment you say, okay, I'm Sibylle, I'm full of energy, my project is fantastic. Okay, but maybe number 17 is the one. Yeah? So how do you get back to this energy level? On daily rituals, how do we get back to the energy level where we say in our work, yes, I'm doing this and there's a reason for it. Yeah? So it's the meaningfulness. And I'm never reinventing the speech every time I'm doing it. I'm not reinventing it. Yeah, it's always a bit different, just to entertain myself also. Yeah, but in general, it's the same. So I need to understand, why am I doing what I'm doing, and that gives me the kick. And then I see the people, and I see people who are curious, who are listening, and that is the process when we are working together, when we know what is our motivation and what is the intention. So think back when the idea pitched you, because with that, we also, when you share it, this is where the passion comes from. Yeah, and this is, to use a Latin word, we always say it's a personal story. Yes, it is a personal story, because personal simply means, by the translation from Latin, that it's sounding through. Yeah, so sonare is to sound, and per is through. Yeah, and it comes from the old mythology, when the are some people here from the theater also? Yeah, because in the Greek theater they had the masks when they needed also women, but women were not allowed to be seen. Yeah, and then they had this sonar, yeah, this pipe where they were talking through, and that's where that you are high. That of course everything, even when it's hidden behind a mask, hidden behind a metaphor, hidden behind a fairy tale, it is always the personal point of view you are sounding through. That's why all of your stories, you have an expertise, and it's your personal stories. And that's why the motivation and intention is so crucial. And this is, if you forget everything, just keep this in mind, because this helps you for your pitch. Understand what is the motivation, why you are making this film. Understand the intention. As we just said, when did the idea pitch you? What do you want to change? What do you want to provoke? What do you want to put in balance back? I hope this look will not be on the screen. I don't know. So for what kind of audience? Understand your audience also. And then start raising very pragmatical questions. Your working questions, just like a thesis. I want to find out. And then you define the issue you want to find out, or the problem which is bothering, the observation you made. So, and of course, as in film, we always want to move on, we want to change. So what happens if? How could the world change? Do you do a documentary? Is there a way out of the situation through the energy and the courage of a character? Or isn't it? That's the difference between a drama and a tragedy. The definition of the genre of tragedy simply means there is a character who has been through a lot of shit and he decides no more, but life gives him one additional last chance and he dares it, fails again because he reminds himself back of all the shit which has happened to him before, and then he doesn't dare, but now he finally knows. And that's a simple definition of tragedy. It's the recognition about repeating the same mistake again. And in any kind of drama, comedy, adventure, action, there's always this change from want to need, where the character goes on a particular trip, on a particular journey. Christopher Vogler's famous hero's journey, all these kind of drama theoretical models where the character makes a development which somehow makes life or that particular context different and better. So that's the improvement. That's why we call this format, we call the world is in balance, whereas the tragedy we call it the world is out of balance and won't be back in balance again. And then after motivation, intention, and the working question, which leads to the theme, translates then into, so what is the film about and how are you going to tell it? As a 13-episode TV series, as a documentary, an observational, a archive-based documentary, a comedy. By the way, what do you think, which genre is the most simplest to pitch? When we think about action, thriller, detective, love story, what? Crime is the most simplest. Yes. Can you say why? Yeah. Okay, I didn't explain myself right, because from the genre, it's not about finding words, but what in a pitch, as I said, you share data. So we are not talking log lines yet, because log lines are things which are written. When I'm talking about a pitch, I'm right now talking about the oral structure. What you do reveal in a pitch about a thriller or a crime story, you say what has happened, who has done it, why have they done it, and on the other hand, who is solving it with which kind of methodology. And if you have a series, we know the detective has a certain kind of approach to find out what has happened. I mean, I don't know whether you still remember Columbo, Peter Falk. I mean, nobody was interested in the cases itself. We were just only watching to say, where is this bloody hint again we oversee, where he walks in at the last second? By the way, this is why we watched Columbo, because it was simply funny to understand what kind of hints did we as the audience oversee. And insofar, crime is really totally simple, because if you would go and tell that and plot it, forget it. Because the idea of a crime story, of course, is to be completely hiding and misleading. So that is it's a challenge. So that's why you really reduce it to that. And then on the opposite, what is most difficult to pitch? What do you guess? Yeah. Also, why? What do you think? Just follow your feeling. Why you said comedy? What's funny? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's that's a good reason. Yeah, particularly with German humor. To focus it. Yeah. What do you guess? Oh. Yeah. Yeah. And as comedy mainly is based on tragedy. Yeah. I mean, slipping on a banana skin is not so funny for the person who breaks the leg. Yeah, we are just laughing our empathy away or the pain away. Yeah, but what you do in a comedy, you actually explain very clearly what type of comedy it is. Yeah, so is it slapstick? Is it romantic comedy? Because then we know exactly what has to happen. Is it this, as I say, the German haha humor? Yeah, we call it the Oberschenkelklopf or the Schenkelklopf humor. That's why it internationally doesn't travel very well. But the British humor travels wonderfully. But there's a lot of irony, a lot of satire. So with comedy, be very precise what kind of what kind of type of comedy you are pitching, and then mainly it is about the character who is in this fish out of water situation, which by itself could be funny. Yeah, I just heard a super sweet pitch of a very very low budget film in Israel, where a couple meets man and wife meet, man and woman meet in a restaurant, exchange looks, it's clear they want to go, and it was pitched by the Israeli Film Fund by Kadril Shori, and he said, of course, like Israeli women are, they go for it straight away. So they get in the car, and then the film is about they try to find 75 minutes a parking place, and it is a hilariously funny movie. It's sad and tragic on one hand, and there you really can see, it's tragedy if you want to go and you can't get rid of your car. And so it shows the absurdity of city life. But this is what you have to find in a pitch. What in itself in a comedy is this momentum where you just say, oh my God. And this is what you never do in a tragedy. You explain what is the starting point and why and where the person doesn't go to. So that's why the genre is absolutely crucial to be right away put into position, or then story worlds, and the content with B2B ending. So in a pitch you will never say something like, and then the unexpected happens ... No. This goes into editorial because people have to go to the movies, pay $10 and then find it out. So you really have to reveal what and where the direction goes. Just briefly here, what do I mean with motivation? These are the questions you can ask yourself. Why is it important for you? What intrigues you most? What makes you curious? What bothers or worries you emotionally, intellectually? And then you define the working question, the thesis, the conflict, and the miscellaneous dilemmata if they are there. And then it's just like something as an exercise to work on. Often I hear that people say the theme of the project is respect, friendship, injustice, intolerance, and my most favorite one is identity. I mean, every film is about identity. So these are nouns, nothing else. A theme only becomes a theme once it moves into the process. So ask yourself, what if? Yeah, start with those questions. What if things change? Or what doesn't, if nothing happens? What changes? What doesn't change? Yeah, try to get sentences out of those keywords. Yeah, and in order to find it, create lists of tags, topics, issues, and then to focus and streamline it down to what is the core of the story and the story world, and find a central question. And even for the artwork, if you go one step further, already a central image for the artwork. To give you the example for that last one, I worked on a diploma film of a documentary filmmaker of one of my students, and they had as a central image it was a burning house. It was a documentary. It was a burning house. People stood there in a village and watched it burning down, and you wondered why. And then the film discovers basically that there was no fire brigade coming in this village, because what I've learned from that in, I don't know how it is in Sweden, but only in cities over 100,000 inhabitants we have a civil fire brigade. Under 100,000 it's deliberate, it's honorary work. Yeah, so that there's a kind of community that people come together and they are maintaining the fire brigade. Yeah? So, and due to many reforms of the villages, people were lost and did not know anymore to which village they belong, because the reforms were so absurd and abstract. And so a lot of houses were burning down in the last decade, and this film was mainly about, on one layer, about the lack of honorary work. How do you call it? Honorary work? Of free, deliberate, volunteer, thanks, yeah. Voluntary work at fire brigades, but based on political decisions. And it turned out to be, and that was then in the end, it started off with a central image. Yeah? And when you prepare a pitch, just try to work emotionally for yourself to find the central image out of which automatically a central question comes, and then you can start formulating a what if question. And that is something, when you use that informally, yeah, when you just later on out there, on what kind of project are you working, and then you can say, I'm wondering, I would like to find out, or I'm just thinking about this question, or I've observed something, or I've heard something which bothers me. Yeah, and then you can formulate a question, and immediately with a question you get people, and then maybe out of that people move into a further talk, because once they know it's about volunteering work with fire brigades, they can say, I'm interested or I'm not interested. So that's why a short definition of what the core of the story is helps you already to not to spend your time and not to spend their time about desperate convincing moments to say, but it's good, it's really good, and it's interesting. Yeah, but what? Yeah. So this is one central tool if you know what it is really about, and share that, because based on that it moves on. And then of course this is you making your films for an audience, so be very clear about for whom it is, and make a differentiation of the target groups. So who is it for? Who uses it? Is it an already fan-based target group? Do you want to win additional audience groups? So this is a very important, clear definition you have to make. And then why would they want to use it or watch it? And where? When? What for? Yeah, that's why it's important to understand social demographics, because if you say it's for families, is it young families, old families? There's only one company in the world who's able to make family films, which is the one with the two. Yes, none of us else is allowed to say family entertainment from 3 to 99. Yeah, but to understand where people would watch it, is it video on demand? Is it public broadcasting? Is it private broadcasting? Can people, when you say, oh, I would love to have an audience between 25 and 35 women, I want them to come to the movie. Do you have toddler groups in your cinemas? What to do with the children? Yeah, so it's all the understanding of the demographics also, which in particular for producers that is absolutely crucial to understand, to have ideas about the strategic planning also of once the film is finished, where to put it. And today, actually, with the new possibilities of distribution, we are so much better off than still 15 years ago, when you had movie theaters and video and television. Yeah, I don't know how long the windows are here. Do you have this day-to-date releases with DVDs as long as they are existing, and cinema, so that it all is released on the same day? So you have windows: first cinema, then DVDs or video on demand, and then later on television. So with big windows. And this is, in today's world, it's completely stupid, because in Germany we have 2 years of window between movie theater release and release in television. It doesn't make sense, because all the different distribution chains or possibilities, they could support each other and jump on the advertisement, on the marketing, because it's anyhow different people using. Yeah, the people who go to the movies anyhow go to the movies, and the ones who watch it on television anyhow watch it on television or stream it. Yeah? So, and this is what I meant in the beginning, that you are not just following the market, but that you are the ones who politically and culturally also should be engaged to shaping the market and to feed it in the sense of its needs. Good. This is the lower part is more for the digital cross-media work, because there you have to be very clear about, even more clear about your audience, who uses the type and why, and also explain why it should be interactive, VR and transmedia. I don't know how many of you are involved in cross-media, transmedia, digital